I'm sharing this because my honest 3-star Airbnb review was removed, and I believe future guests deserve to understand what happened with this host, Volki, and this Airbnb that he is advertising and renting out. So my family and I stayed at this New York apartment from June 23rd through July 4th while I underwent a major surgery. We chose it primarily for the location, and I want to be fair, the host was accommodating in certain ways, and the apartment met our most basic needs. So I'm not saying that it was not adequate for our stay. Like, we clearly survived, okay? But this is why I gave it 3 stars. And I think that it is extremely unfair that Airbnb removed my 3-star review after the host lied on me. And I have all the proof, all the receipts. So my initial review was not malicious. It was not exaggerated. It was not written to obtain compensation. In fact, I specifically told the host that I was not requesting a refund or a discount. I was simply documenting the condition of the property and our experience so that he could improve the stay for future guests. Obviously, we were not planning to stay there again. We would never stay there again. But we did want him to know what we were experiencing so that he could be aware and make the needed improvements. So this is the initial review that I submitted. As you can see, this review is very gracious. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't give it 1 star, but it didn't deserve 5 stars. So 3 is right there with okay. It was an okay experience. I thank him for hosting us. I said, now that we're home, we just wanted to give you some constructive observations that might be helpful. And we talked about the furniture being stained and damaged and ripped and torn. We talked about the weeds that were in the backyard. My dad actually contemplated buying weed killer during our stay because there were so many weeds outside. And of course, that's not really something you think about when you have an Airbnb just to stay the night and then go out and explore the city. But we were literally there for surgery. And once I had the surgery, after I was released from the hospital, like, we all spent the rest of the time inside the Airbnb. So, okay, it would have been nice to have a nicer place to stay. Another recurring issue that I mentioned was the excessive noise that was coming from the unit above us. Lunchtime, evening time, nighttime, that's when I could hear them. My parents slept downstairs, so they heard them all throughout the night, the middle of the night, the early morning, and my dad recorded video. Listen to this. Is that what you want to hear at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the morning? Like, what are you possibly doing? Like, how much luggage, how many chairs are you dragging across the floor in the middle of the night? I don't know. But that was an issue for us because it was so consistent that they could get multiple recordings of the noise. And after long days of medical appointments and recovery, the inability to get uninterrupted rest was extremely frustrating for all of us, okay? But the biggest thing for me is a clean bathroom, okay? If you can have a clean bathroom, I can deal with everything else for the most part, okay? Just let the bathroom be clean. It was so dirty. The grout work was worn and could literally just be improved with a little bit of cleaning. When we would shower, the water would puddle up to our ankles. Mind you, this is not a split shower that's half a bathtub. This is a walk-in shower. But it was disgusting because stuff was floating out of the drain. This is a shared Airbnb, a rental, a vacation unit. Like, you don't know. It was very gross. The bathroom sink also had the same issue where the water would just rise and take forever to go down the drain. Like, it just was stagnant water. That is why we left the review that we left. Let me tell you how it went down. So I left the review. The next day he messages me and he says, hey, in exchange for you taking down that review, I'll give you 2 free nights. If you please just take down that review because it's really impacting our guests. Mind you, it was a 3-star review. I look back on his listing, all of his reviews are really high ratings. So I wonder how many other people he has given the offer to of, if you remove your less than 4 or 5-star review, I'll give you a free night. Like, that just, I cannot believe that he's literally allowed to host on Airbnb violating their policies like that. It's a direct violation. They did not care. So he says that, and I send him a response and I say, hey, we're not trying to stay there again. I just wanted to provide honest feedback in hopes that it enhances your property for future guests. And then I proceeded to send him all the videos, all the pictures, everything that supported my review. And I said, this is not malicious by any intent. That's why I gave you 3 stars, because I believe it has potential. However, this is not what's being advertised on the website. And then he's like, well, initially you said that the stay was going great. And I was like, yeah, when you first checked in on day 2, it was going great. Then I had surgery. We ended up staying there for almost 2 weeks. And we had to stay in the Airbnb. We weren't just perusing town and going to appointments. Like, I literally said that. At that point, he stops responding. And the next day, I get an email from Airbnb saying my review was removed because of pressure and coercion. At this point, I'm like, you're actually joking, right? Y'all, I get the longest runaround all day through messages, through phone. At one point, I asked to have my case escalated because they said there was nothing they could do to unhide my review. And I'm like, what do you mean there's nothing you can do? Just literally unhide it. But, Riza May, the senior case manager at Airbnb, she was like, I'll call you within the hour. 2.5, almost 3 hours later, after I messaged her multiple times, like, hey, I'm planning to call. You said within an hour. That was 2.5 hours ago. And she finally calls, like, yeah, there's nothing we can do to reinstate and unhide your review. But I really understand your frustration, but your review violated the policies. And I said, so could you explain to me, please, how my review violated the policies? Did you look at Volki's message to me? Like, if you in the thread right now on the Airbnb app, you will see he initiated that conversation about removing my review in exchange for something. And she's like, yeah, I understand your frustration, but there's just nothing that I could do. If I could unhide your review, I would, but there's nothing that I can do. And that's from the team that does the investigations, and I have no way of contacting them. She says, is there anything else we can help you with? I said, no, you did help me with this. So thank you. Okay, have a night. And I said, this feels unjust. It is what it is. I'm taking it to socials. If people want to look up his listing and find an honest review, here is an honest review. I would not recommend staying there if you value your sleep, your cleanliness, and outdoor spaces. I mean, the pictures do not look anything like what's actually there. False advertising. I don't see how Airbnb is literally getting away with this. How many other reviews have they removed? I just wanted to share this, and hopefully this helps someone.